The space around Kepler 442c looked like a graveyard. Dead planets always did. Captain Hyun-ki stood on the bridge of the research ship New Seoul, watching the brown world grow larger on the main screen. No atmosphere, no life. Just another rock, floating in the black. Readings show the same structures we found on Rigel 7, said Dr. Sora from her science station. She pushed her black hair back from her face and looked at the data again. Big stone buildings, complex patterns, definitely Ancient One work. Hyun-ki nodded. The Ancient Ones had built things all over the galaxy, then disappeared. Nobody knew who they were or where they went. The Galactic Council said they were probably the first intelligent species. They left behind ruins and technology that the current galaxy still could not fully understand. "How long until we can land?" asked Commander Jae-ho. The military escort. Commander always wanted to know timing. He had fought in too many border wars to trust anything completely. 2 hours, replied Engineer Bomi from her station. The young woman was the best at reading ancient tech signatures. The orbital sensors show 3 major sites. All look intact. Hyun-ki walked to the center of the bridge. At 52, he had led more archaeological missions than anyone else, from Earth. The humans were still new members of the Galactic Council. They had only joined 30 years ago when they finally developed faster-than-light travel. Most of the older species still looked down on them as primitives. "Dr. Sora, what makes these ruins special?" he asked. She pulled up holographic images on the main screen. The mathematical patterns are different from other Ancient One sites, more complex. The stonework shows techniques we have never seen before. If we can understand how they built these, it might help us learn about their technology. The Galactic Council gave humans small research grants to study Ancient One ruins. It was busy work, really. The important sites were handled by the older, more advanced species. Humans got the leftovers, the places that had already been picked clean. But Hyun-ki did not mind. Every ruin taught them something. Every piece of Ancient One technology helped humanity catch up with the rest of the galaxy. They were patient people. They would learn. 2 hours later, the landing shuttle touched down near the largest ruin complex. The team put on their environmental suits and stepped onto the dead world's surface. The gravity was lighter than Earth standard, making each step feel like a small bounce. The ruins stretched for kilometers. Massive stone blocks fit together with perfect precision. Towers rose into the thin atmosphere, their tops lost in shadows. Everywhere carved symbols covered the walls in neat rows. "Amazing," whispered Dr. Sora, running her scanner over the nearest wall. "The construction technique is incredible. These blocks weigh tons, but they fit together without any binding material." Commander Jae-ho kept his weapon ready, watching the empty doorways. "How old are these?" "Preliminary scans suggest 50,000 years, maybe more," Sora replied. "But something is strange. The decay patterns are not what I would expect for that age." Engineer Bomi was studying a tall tower. "Captain, look at this. The design of these doorways. They are sized for beings about our height. Most Ancient One ruins show much taller entranceways." Hyun-ki felt something cold in his stomach. In all their research, Ancient One ruins had always been built for much larger beings. The galactic assumption was that the ancients had been giants, maybe 3 meters tall, but these doorways were human-sized. "Let us go inside," he said. The main building was dark, but their lights revealed wonders. The walls showed detailed carvings of star maps, mathematical formulas, and scenes of daily life. But as they walked deeper, Dr. Sora stopped suddenly. "Captain," she said, her voice shaking. "Look at this." On the wall in front of them, carved deep into the stone, were symbols they all recognized. Not Ancient One script, Korean characters, old style but readable. "That says 3rd Colony Administration Building," Sora whispered. Hyun-ki stared at the wall. It was impossible. Humans had only reached the stars 30 years ago. How could there be Korean writing in 50,000-year-old ruins? "There must be some mistake, Satin," said Jae-ho, but his voice lacked conviction. Bomi was scanning the carvings with every instrument she had. "The dating is correct. These symbols are as old as the stone. And Captain, there are more languages here. I see what looks like Japanese, Chinese, and others. All human languages. They moved deeper into the building, finding room after room covered in human writing. The star map showed familiar constellations but with different names written in various Earth languages. Technical diagrams displayed machines and ships that looked far more advanced than anything the current galaxy possessed. In the deepest room they found it, a massive data storage device still functioning after all these years. The crystal matrix glowed softly blue when Sora connected her scanner to it. "It is active," she said with amazement. "After 50,000 years it still works." The data download took 6 hours. When it finished, they sat in the shuttle reviewing the files. None of them spoke for a long time. The data cache contained star charts showing human colonies across half the galaxy, technical manuals for ships and weapons that made current galactic technology look like stone tools, historical records of a vast human civilization that had dominated the stars for thousands of years. "How is this possible?" asked Bomi. "We only developed space travel 30 years ago." Dr. Sora was reading through the historical files. "According to this, humanity reached the stars over 50,000 years ago. We built an empire that spanned dozens of sectors. We had technology that could move planets, create artificial suns, and travel between galaxies." "What happened to them?" "To us?" Jeho asked. "The records are incomplete," Sora replied. "But it mentions something called the Great Sleep, some kind of massive threat from outside the galaxy. The decision to hibernate? The translation is unclear." Hyunki felt the weight of the discovery pressing down on him. If this was real, if humans had once ruled the galaxy, then everything they thought they knew was wrong. The Galactic Council, the older species who looked down on humanity, they were not the inheritors of the galaxy. They were just the latest occupants of human space. "We need to get this information back to Earth," he said. As the new soul prepared to leave Kepler 442c, disaster struck. A solar flare from the system's unstable star interfered with their communication array. The automatic systems activated, sending a compressed data burst to the nearest communication relay. The burst contained everything they had found, including the human language translations. By the time Engineer Bomi realized what had happened, it was too late. The data had already been transmitted to the Galactic Council's central communication network. Every member species would have access to the discovery within days. "Captain," Bomi said, her face pale. "The communication system sent everything, all our data, all the translations. The entire galaxy will know what we found." Hyun-Ki closed his eyes. They had just changed everything. The secret that humanity had once ruled the stars was now public knowledge, and he had no idea how the galaxy would react to learning that the species they considered primitive had actually built the civilization they all lived in. 3 days later, as the new soul entered Earth's solar system, they received a priority message from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Tae-jin's face appeared on the main screen and he looked worried. "Captain Hyun-Ki, you and your team are ordered to report to Earth immediately. All human archaeological permits have been suspended, pending review. The Council has called an emergency session. They want to discuss your discovery." The ambassador paused, looking directly into the camera. "Captain, what exactly did you find out there? The Council species are acting strange. Some seem excited, but others appear frightened. I have never seen them like this." Hyun-Ki looked at his team. Dr. Sora was still going through the data files. Commander Jeho was checking weapon systems, old habits from his military days. Engineer Bomi was running diagnostics on everything she could think of. "We found the truth," Hyun-Ki said finally. "We found out who the Ancient Ones really were." As the new soul descended toward Earth, Hyun-Ki wondered if they had just awakened something that had been sleeping for 50,000 years. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not a young species stumbling toward the stars. They were the children of giants, and their ancestors had built everything the current galaxy called home. The question now was what would happen when the sleeping giants decided to wake up. Down on Earth, in the deep archives beneath the Himalayas, ancient machines that had been silent for millennia began to hum softly. Across the solar system, Asteroids that had floated in the same orbits for thousands of years started to move. And far out in the Kuiper Belt, something vast and dark began to unfold itself, shedding the disguise of a simple ice-covered rock. Humanity had been home for 30 years, thinking they were alone in their own solar system. They were about to discover they had never left. The meeting room in the United Earth Government building had never been so quiet. President Jiwoo sat at the head of the long table, staring at the holographic displays that filled the air above them. Star charts, genetic analysis reports, and archaeological data floated in blue light, telling an impossible story. Captain Hyun-ki finished his presentation and sat down. His team looked tired from 3 days of non-stop briefings with government officials, scientists, and military leaders. Everyone wanted to hear about their discovery on Kepler 442c. "So you are telling me," said Admiral Sun-ho slowly, "that humans once ruled half the galaxy, then somehow forgot about it completely?" Dr. Sora activated another hologram. "The genetic evidence supports it, Admiral. Dr. Young-mi has been analyzing DNA samples from various species across the galaxy. Many of them show human genetic markers." Dr. Young-mi, Earth's leading expert in genetic archaeology, stepped forward. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her voice was strong and confident. "I have been studying galactic species data for 20 years, she said. "There are dozens of species that the Council classifies as extinct or primitive. But when I compare their genetic structure to humans, the relationship is clear. They are not separate species. They are our descendants." She activated a new display showing genetic family trees. The miners of Centauri 7, the deep swimmers of Aquatica, the mountain folk of Rigel Prime, all human variants that adapted to their environments over thousands of generations. President Jiwoo rubbed her temples. At 63, she had dealt with many crises during her time in office. First contact with aliens, trade negotiations, border disputes, but nothing like this. "How is it possible that we forgot our own history?" she asked. Engineer Bomi spoke up from her seat. "The data cache mentioned something called the Great Sleep. According to the records, it was not natural. It was planned." "Planned? By whom?" asked Admiral Sun-ho. "By us," replied Captain Hyun-ki. "By ancient humans. The records are damaged, but they mention a threat from outside the galaxy. Something so dangerous that the human government decided the only way to survive was to hide." Ambassador Tae-jin, who had been quiet during the meeting, finally spoke. "We need to discuss the political situation. The Galactic Council is meeting in emergency session. They received your data transmission 3 days ago, and the reaction has been intense." He activated his own holographic display, showing news feeds from across the galaxy. Alien news anchors spoke in their various languages, but the translation software made their panic clear. "The hegemony military is mobilizing," Tae-jin continued. "The Etherian Republic has recalled all their ambassadors. The Trade Federation has suspended all human contracts. They are scared." "Scared of what?" asked President Jiwoo. "Of us," replied Admiral Sun-ho grimly. "Think about it from their perspective. They have spent 3,000 years believing they were the advanced civilizations. They built their technology by copying Ancient One ruins. They established their governments based on being superior to younger species like humans." Dr. Young-mi nodded. "And now they discover that every piece of Ancient One technology they reverse-engineered actually came from humans. Their entire civilization is built on our leftovers." The room fell quiet as everyone absorbed the implications. Ambassador Tae-jin broke the silence. "I received an official communication from the Council this morning," he said. "They want to meet with our leadership. They are calling it a diplomatic consultation, but the tone suggests something more like an ultimatum." "What kind of ultimatum?" asked President Jiwoo. "They want us to surrender all archaeological data related to Ancient One sites. They want humans to submit to protective custody while they determine how to handle the situation. And they want guarantees that we will not attempt to activate any Ancient One technology." Admiral Sun-ho laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Protective custody. They want to put humanity in prison to keep us from reclaiming what was ours in the first place. Can they force us? Asked President Jiwoo. The combined fleets of the Galactic Council could destroy Earth, Admiral Sun Ho admitted. Our defense fleet has 12 ships. The Council has thousands. Captain Hyun-ki had been quiet during this discussion, but now he looked up from the data displays. Admiral, what if we do not have only 12 ships? Everyone turned to look at him. What do you mean? Asked Sun Ho. The data cache contained technical specifications for human technology, but it also contained something else: location codes for hidden installations throughout the solar system. Engineer Bomi activated her personal scanner and connected it to the room's holographic system. I have been analyzing the location data since we returned to Earth. Some of these coordinates point to asteroids, comets, even gas giant storms that have been in our system for as long as we have been observing space. And? Prompted Admiral Sun Ho. And the mathematical patterns of their orbits are not natural, Bomi replied. They are too precise, too stable. Something has been maintaining their positions for thousands of years. Dr. Sora pulled up star charts of the solar system. If these locations are really hidden installations, then humanity never actually lost its technology. It just went to sleep, waiting for us to find it again. President Jiwoo stood up and walked to the window overlooking Geneva. Outside, life continued normally. People went to work. Children played in parks. Traffic moved through the streets. None of them knew that their entire understanding of human history had just changed. Admiral, she said without turning around, how quickly can we investigate these locations? I can have ships at the nearest coordinates within 6 hours, Sun Ho replied. Do it, but quietly. If these installations are real, I want to know what we are dealing with before the council meeting. Ambassador Tae Jin looked worried. Madam President, if we activate ancient human technology, the Council will see it as an act of aggression. They might attack before we can explain. And if we do nothing, replied Jiwoo, they will put us in protective custody and make sure we never learn the truth about our own history. She turned back to face the room. I would rather face them as equals than surrender as prisoners. 6. Hours later, Admiral Sun Ho received the first reports from the investigation teams. His face was pale when he contacted President Jiwoo. Madam President, you need to see this, he said over the communication link. The holographic display activated, showing the view from a military reconnaissance ship approaching what had always been catalogued as asteroid designation AS-7234. But as the ship got closer, the asteroid began to change. Metal panels slid back to reveal crystalline structures underneath. Lights activated in patterns that suggested corridors and rooms. Docking bays opened like flowers blooming in fast motion. In minutes, what had looked like a simple rock became clearly artificial. It is a space station, Sun Ho said quietly, and it is huge. Preliminary scans suggest it could house 50,000 people and manufacture ships the size of our largest carriers. Are there people inside? Asked Jiwoo. No life signs, but the power systems are active, and the computer networks are responding to our approach. It seems to recognize our ships as human. Dr. Young-mi appeared on the communication link from another ship. Madam President, we are at coordinates Delta 7. This location was supposed to be empty space, but we are detecting a massive structure. It appears to be camouflaged using some kind of light-bending technology. More reports came in over the next hour. Every location from the data cache contained hidden installations, shipyards disguised as comet clusters, weapon platforms that looked like natural gas formations around Jupiter, manufacturing centers built into the asteroid belt itself. The solar system was not empty space with one inhabited planet. It was a fortress that had been hiding in plain sight for 50,000 years. How many ships can these facilities produce? Asked President Jiwoo. Admiral Sun Ho consulted his reports. According to the computer systems that are coming online, full production could build a fleet of 10,000 vessels within a year. But, Madam President, these are not normal ships. The technical specifications show capabilities far beyond anything the current galaxy possesses. As if to prove his point, one of the hidden shipyards activated its main construction bay. The reconnaissance team watched as a ship began to take shape, assembled by machines that moved too fast for the eye to follow. In less than an hour, a icy vessel larger than Earth's biggest carrier floated free from the construction bay. "The ship is powering up," reported the team leader. "It is requesting communication with Earth Command." "Put it through," ordered Admiral Sun Ho. The holographic display showed the bridge of the new ship. Empty chairs surrounded a command console that was clearly designed for human operators. But a voice came from the ship's computer system, speaking in perfect Korean. "This is the human defense vessel Sejong the Great reporting for duty after extended hibernation. Awaiting orders from Earth Command." President Jiwoo stared at the display. "How long have you been waiting?" she asked. 47,312 years, 7 months, 16 days, replied the ship's computer. "Ready to resume protection of human space upon authorization from Earth Command." The room fell silent. Outside, Geneva continued. "It's normal day." But inside the government building, the leaders of Captain Da-Yun stood on the bridge of the Sejong the Great, watching the stars change from lines back to points as the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. She was still getting used to commanding a vessel that was bigger than most space stations. 2 days ago, she had been captain of a simple exploration ship. Now she commanded a dreadnought that had been sleeping for 50,000 years. "Approaching Kepler 186F, reported Chief Engineer Kyung-soo from his station. The man looked overwhelmed by the advanced technology surrounding him, but he was learning fast. The planet shows signs of intelligent life. Large cities, orbital, installations, and something else. "What kind of something else?" asked Da-un. "Energy signatures that match human technology." "Old human technology, the kind that built this ship." Da-un nodded. Over the past week, every human ship sent to investigate former colony worlds had found the same thing. Humans were still there, but they had changed. Some had adapted to water worlds and could breathe underwater. Others had evolved for high gravity or low-light conditions. A few had developed mental abilities that seemed impossible, but they were all still human. "Take us into orbit," she ordered, "and send the standard greeting." The standard greeting was a message in ancient Korean, transmitted on frequencies that human technology would recognize. It identified them as Earth humans and asked for peaceful contact. So far, it had worked on every world they visited. This time was different. The response came immediately, not in Korean but in a language that the ship's computers identified as evolved Chinese. The translation appeared on Da-Yun's screen. "Welcome home, Star Sailors. We have been waiting for you to wake up." An hour later, Da-Yun stood in the shuttle bay with Intelligence Officer Min-Ah, preparing to visit the planet's surface. Min-Ah had been studying reports from other worlds, trying to understand what had happened to humanity's scattered colonies. "The pattern is always the same," Min-Ah explained as they boarded the shuttle. "The human colonies survived whatever catastrophe ended the original empire, but they were cut off from each other. Over thousands of generations, they adapted to their new worlds and forgot their history. But they remember enough to recognize us," Da-Un pointed out. "Some do. Others see us as invaders. The colonies on Vega 3 actually fired on our ships before we could explain who we were." The shuttle descended through Kepler 186F's atmosphere, revealing a world that was both familiar and strange. The cities were clearly built using human architectural principles, but they had evolved over millennia into something new. Towers grew, like trees branching and twisting toward the sky. Roads curved in patterns that suggested the inhabitants could fly or leap great distances. They landed at what appeared to be the capital city's spaceport. The beings who met them looked human, but their skin was pale blue and their eyes were larger than normal. Adaptations for a world with a red dwarf sun. The leader introduced herself as Governor Haiwan, speaking in the evolved Chinese that the universal translators could now understand. She was tall and thin, with the kind of grace that came from growing up in lower gravity. We are honored to meet our sky cousins, she said, bowing in a way that was recognizably human despite the cultural changes. Our songs tell of the day when the star sailors would return to gather the scattered children. Your songs? Asked Minna. Come, we will show you. They traveled through the city in vehicles that floated silently above the ground. The inhabitants stopped to stare at the visitors, but not with fear. Their faces showed recognition, as if they were seeing relatives who had been away for a long time. The city's center contained a massive building that looked like a combination of temple and library. Inside, the walls were covered with paintings that told a story Da-Un was beginning to understand. The paintings showed humans spreading across the galaxy, building great cities on thousands of worlds. Then came darkness, represented by shadows that reached between the stars. The humans made a great decision, shown as figures entering into sleep while others scattered to distant worlds. The songs tell us that the sky sailors chose to sleep until the shadow time was over, explained Governor Haywan. We, the scattered children, were to adapt and survive on our worlds, keeping the human spirit alive until the awakening. How long have you known we would return? Asked Da-Un. Always. Each generation teaches the next. When your ship appeared, in our sky, our instruments recognized the energy signature immediately. It matched the patterns shown in our oldest technical manuals. Minna was studying the paintings. Governor, do your people know what caused the original catastrophe? What were these shadows? Governor Haiwan's expression grew serious. The songs speak of hunters from the void beyond our galaxy, beings that consumed entire civilizations, leaving only emptiness behind. Our ancestors saw them coming from far away and knew that fighting would mean destruction for everyone. So they chose to hide instead, Da-Un said. Not hide. Prepare. The songs say that when the sky sailors wake, it means the shadow time is ending. But it also means the hunters might return. Back on the Sejong the Great, Da-Un sent her report to Earth and the other human ships scattered across the galaxy. The pattern was becoming clear. Humanity had not collapsed or disappeared. They had made a strategic decision to disperse and wait. General Wu Jin's response came within hours. As Supreme Commander of the awakening human military, he had been coordinating the contact missions across dozens of worlds. Captain Da-Un, we have similar reports from 17 other colonies. The scattered populations all maintained some memory of the original crisis and our eventual return. But we have also discovered something else. The General's image appeared on her screen, broadcasting from the command ship Sol Station. Behind him, holographic displays showed star maps with thousands of marked locations. Our archaeological teams have found human technology hidden on worlds throughout the galaxy. Not just the scattered colonies, but places where no humans live at all. It appears our ancestors left a network of installations designed to activate when we returned. What kind of installations? Asked Da-Un. Everything. Communication relays, manufacturing centers, weapon platforms, even artificial intelligence systems that have been monitoring galactic civilization for 50,000 years. Captain, we did not just build an empire and then abandon it. We built a system designed to restart civilization when the time was right. Chief Engineer Kyung-soo looked up from his station. General, our ship's computer has been receiving activation codes from across the galaxy. Systems that have been dormant for millennia are coming online. The ship says it is part of something called the Guardian Network. The Guardian Network is humanity's insurance policy, replied General Wu Jin. According to the data we are recovering, our ancestors knew that younger species would eventually develop space travel. The network was designed to watch over them, protecting galactic civilization until humanity could return to take direct responsibility. Da-Un felt a chill run down her spine. General, are you saying that humanity has been secretly protecting the galaxy for 50,000 years? Not secretly. The Galactic Council species have been living under human protection their entire history. They just did not know it. Intelligence Officer Minna brought up her own displays. That explains why the Council species are so frightened. Their entire civilization exists because humanity allowed it to exist. Every time they thought they were exploring empty space, they were actually moving through territory that human systems had already secured. The communication link chimed with an incoming priority message. Ambassador Taejin appeared on the screen, broadcasting from the council meeting station at Alpha Centauri. General Wu Jin, Captain Da-eun. The situation here is deteriorating rapidly. 3 council species have withdrawn from the negotiations. The hegemony is demanding that all human ships withdraw from their territory immediately. Their territory? Asked Da-eun. 17 star systems that they claim by right of settlement. Systems where we now know human colonies existed 50,000 years ago. Taejin looked tired and worried. General, they are calling our return an invasion. They refuse to accept that these were originally human worlds. General Wu Jin's expression hardened. Ambassador, please inform the council that humanity is not invading anything. We are coming home. There is more, continued Taejin. Intelligence reports suggest that several species are planning coordinated military action. They believe that, if they strike quickly, they can destroy the human ships before more of our technology comes online. How much time do we have? Asked General Wu Jin. Days, maybe hours. The hegemony fleet is already moving towards Sol system. They intend to attack Earth directly. Da-eun looked at her crew. These were humans who had lived their entire lives believing they were members of a young, weak species, barely tolerated by galactic civilization. Now they were learning that their ancestors had built the foundations of that civilization and left guardians to protect it. General, she said, what are your orders? All human ships are to return to Sol system immediately. We will make our stand at Earth. If the Council wants a war, we will give them one, but not the kind of war they expect. As the Sejong the Great prepared to jump back to Earth, Chief Engineer Kyung-soo reported something strange. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen anything like this. Ambassador Taejin sat at the human delegation table, watching as the representatives of 12 species argued in languages his universal translator could barely keep up with. Fear filled the air like smoke. Across the chamber, the hegemony delegation was standing and shouting. Their leader, a large reptilian being named Thektar, pointed directly at Taejin as he spoke. The human contamination must be stopped immediately. Thektar's words came through the translator with mechanical precision, but the anger was clear. They activate ancient weapons across our territory. They claim ownership of worlds that have been ours for millennia. Those worlds were never yours, Taejin replied calmly. Our archaeological evidence clearly shows human settlement dating back 50,000 years. The Etherian delegate, a floating being of pure energy named Lixara, pulsed with different colors as it spoke. The issue is not ownership. The issue is what humanity intends to do with this technology. What we intend to do, said Taejin, is protect the same galactic civilization we have been protecting for 50,000 years. This statement caused an uproar. Representatives from 6 species began talking at once, their translators creating a chaos of overlapping voices. The council speaker, an ancient being called Veltar from the first species to achieve spaceflight, raised a hand for silence. When the chamber quieted, Veltar spoke in a voice that carried the weight of 3,000 years of galactic leadership. Human ambassador, you claim that your species has been protecting us. Yet until 30 years ago, your people had not even achieved faster than light travel. Explain this contradiction. Taejin activated his holographic display. Images filled the air above the chamber floor, showing star charts with thousands of marked locations. These are the positions of installations that our ancestors left throughout the galaxy. Defense platforms, monitoring stations, and automated systems that have been maintaining galactic stability for millennia. He changed the display to show historical data. Every major war between council species that ended mysteriously, every natural disaster that was somehow contained before it could spread, every dangerous space phenomenon that appeared and then vanished. All of it was the work of human guardian systems. Dr. Hyejin, Earth's specialist in alien psychology, had prepared Taejin for this moment. She had studied the council species for years and understood their deepest fears. You are terrified, Taejin continued, because you have built your entire identity around being superior to humanity. But the truth is that you have been living as children in a house built by adults. Adults who stepped away to let you grow up safely. The hegemony delegate Thektar slammed his clawed hand on the table. We will not accept this humiliation. The hegemony has conquered 17 systems through strength and courage. We bow to no species. The 17 systems you conquered, replied Taejin, were allowed to be conquered. Our guardian systems could have stopped you at any time. He activated a new holographic display showing one of the hegemony's recent military victories. Your attack on the Kalari system 3 years ago. You believed you won because of superior tactics. But watch this. The hologram showed the space battle from a different angle, revealing previously invisible structures moving through the combat zone. Massive platforms that had been disguised as asteroids, energy fields that guided missile trajectories, and shield generators that protected refugee ships. Your victory was managed, Taejin explained. The Guardian systems allowed you to take territory that was strategically unimportant while protecting the civilian populations and critical infrastructure. The chamber fell silent. Even the hegemony delegates stopped their angry protests as they absorbed the implications. Colonel Sung Ho's voice came through Taejin's secure communicator. Ambassador, we have a situation. Several species are mobilizing their fleets. The Trade Federation is evacuating human populations from their worlds. The Rigel Alliance is demanding that all humans surrender themselves to protective custody. Taejin had expected this. Dr. Haijin had predicted that some species would react with violence when their fundamental beliefs were challenged. Council, Speaker, Taejin said aloud, I have received reports that several member species are taking hostile actions against human populations. This is unacceptable. Veltar consulted with the other council leaders. Human Ambassador, many species are concerned about the implications of your claims. If humanity once ruled the galaxy, what guarantee do we have that you will not attempt to do so again? Before Taejin could answer, the chamber's alert systems activated. Emergency lights flashed as the council's military coordinator appeared on the main display. Council Speaker, we are receiving reports of massive energy signatures throughout the galaxy. Unknown installations are powering up simultaneously across hundreds of star systems. Taejin felt his heart sink. The Human Guardian Network was responding to threats against human populations. The systems that had protected galactic civilization for 50,000 years were preparing to protect their creators. Ambassador, said Veltar urgently, are your people responsible for this? The Guardian systems are automated, Taejin replied. They respond to threats against human populations or galactic stability. If your species are mobilizing against humans, the systems will take defensive action. On his private communicator, Colonel Sung Ho provided updates. Ambassador, Fleet Admiral Nara reports that human battle groups are moving to protect our colonies. The hegemony fleet is 3 hours from Sol system, but they are about to get a surprise. The main display showed images from across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, structures that had been mistaken for natural formations were revealing themselves as human installations. Asteroid belts rearranged themselves into defensive patterns. Gas giant storms organized into clear geometric shapes. Space itself seemed to be awakening. This is impossible, whispered Thektar, staring at images of hegemony space. Our home system. Those moons have been in the same orbits for millions of years. No, said Taejin sadly. They have been in those orbits for 50,000 years, because human orbital mechanic systems have been keeping them stable. Your entire solar system is an artificial construct designed to support your species' development. The revelation hit the chamber like a physical blow. Species that had prided themselves on conquering nature discovered they had been living in carefully maintained gardens. Counselor Il-sung, one of the few aliens who had always advocated for better human-alien relations, stood up from the Etherian delegation. This changes everything, Il-sung said. If humanity built the infrastructure that supports our civilization, then our entire understanding of galactic history is wrong. The question, said Veltar, is what humanity intends to do now. Taejin was about to answer when Fleet Admiral Nara's voice came through on priority frequency. All stations, this is Admiral Nara. The hegemony fleet has engaged human forces at the edge of Sol system. I repeat, we are under attack. The chamber erupted in chaos again, but this time the fear was mixed with confusion. Several species began demanding that their fleets withdraw from human space immediately. Admiral, Tae-jin said into his communicator, what is the situation? The hegemony brought their entire battle fleet, over 300 ships. But Ambassador, they are not fighting us. They are fighting the Guardian network. On the main display, images from the battle appeared. The hegemony fleet was indeed massive, but they were surrounded by structures that defied understanding. Space stations the size of moons, weapon platforms that seemed to bend light around them, and ships that moved without visible propulsion. The Guardian network activated the moment hegemony forces entered Sol system. Nara continued. Our human ships are not even engaging. The network is handling the entire battle on its own. Thektar watched his species' greatest fleet being systematically disabled by weapons that appeared from empty space. The hegemony ships were not being destroyed. Their systems were simply being shut down, leaving the crews alive but helpless. Stop this, Thektar said quietly. Please. We surrender. Tae-jin spoke into his communicator. Admiral, can you contact the Guardian network? Ask them to cease hostilities. Already tried, Ambassador. The network says it will stop when the threat to human populations ends. All hegemony forces must withdraw from human space and guarantee the safety of human colonies. Across the chamber, other species were receiving similar reports. Every fleet that had moved against human populations was being confronted by Guardian systems that had been hidden for millennia. How many of these installations are there? Asked Veltar. Tae-jin consulted the data his government had provided. Our estimates suggest over 10,000 major installations, with hundreds of thousands of smaller systems. The network spans the entire galaxy. The truth was finally sinking in. The Galactic Council had not been governing an empty galaxy with young civilizations learning to cooperate. They had been living in a managed environment, protected and guided by systems they never knew existed. What do you want from us? Asked Lixara, the Etherian delegate. The same thing we have always wanted, replied Tae-jin. Peace. Cooperation, the continued development of galactic civilization. But now that you know the truth, we can work. Supreme Admiral Jine stood in the command center of the massive space station that had once been disguised as Saturn's moon Titan. Around her, holographic displays showed the entire galaxy, with red markers indicating the approach of something that made every previous galactic crisis look small. How long until they arrive? She asked. Scientist Yoon-jung looked up from her analysis station. Based on their current speed and trajectory, the extragalactic entities will reach the outer edge of our galaxy in 72 hours, and we still do not know what they want? We know what they did last time, said Elder Dong-hyun from his chair near the center of the command room. At over 50,000 years old, he was the only human who remembered the original crisis. The stasis technology had preserved him perfectly, but his eyes held the weight of millennia. Tell me again, Ginny said, though she had heard the story many times in the past week. Dong-hyun's voice was calm, but his words were terrifying. They consume organized matter, not just life, all complex structures, planets, stars, entire solar systems. They break everything down into basic energy and absorb it. And they are intelligent? Yes, they learn from each civilization they consume. They become more efficient with each galaxy they destroy. The old man paused. When they first appeared in our galaxy 50,000 years ago, we tried to fight them. Our entire civilization, billions of humans across thousands of worlds, could barely slow them down. Diplomat Seok Jin approached the group. Supreme Admiral, the Galactic Council has agreed to the emergency alliance, but many species are still in denial. They refuse to believe the threat is real. Even after what happened to the probe fleet? Asked Jin-A. 3 days ago, the Council had sent a combined fleet of 100 ships to investigate the approaching entities. The fleet had simply disappeared. No explosion, no debris, no distress signals. One moment they were there, the next moment the space was empty. The hegemony insists it was a human trick to consolidate power, Seokjin replied. They believe we destroyed the probe fleet ourselves to justify taking control of the galaxy. Elder Donghyun laughed, but there was no humor in it. They still do not understand. We do not want control of the galaxy. We want to save it. Janae turned to her communication officer. Any word from the other battle groups? Fleet Admiral. Nara reports that all human installations are fully operational. Captain Dayun's exploration fleet has made contact with the remaining human colonies. General Wu Jin confirms that the Guardian network is at maximum readiness. And our new allies. Mixed results, admitted the officer. The Etherian Republic has integrated their fleets with our command structure. The Trade Federation is providing logistical support. But the hegemony and 3 other species are still mobilizing independently. Jinny had expected this. Even facing extinction, some species could not accept working under human leadership. Dr. Hyojin had predicted that pride would be their greatest enemy in the coming battle. Supreme Admiral, called scientist Yoon Jung, we are receiving a transmission from the entities. The command center fell silent. In 50,000 years of preparation, this was the first time the extragalactic invaders had attempted communication. Put it through, ordered Janae. The main display activated, showing an image that hurt to look at directly. The entity appeared to be made of flowing darkness with points of light that might have been eyes or sensors. When it spoke, the words came in perfect galactic standard, as if it had learned the language from the consumed probe fleet. Inhabitants of this galaxy, the entity said, we are the Devourers. We have consumed 17 galaxies across cosmic time. Your resistance is noted but irrelevant. You will be processed efficiently. This is Supreme Admiral Jin'e of the Human Defense Network, she replied. We reject your claim on this galaxy. The entity's response was immediate. Human, we remember your species. You delayed our harvest for 50 of your millennia. This time, there will be no escape into hiding. We are not hiding anymore, Jin'e said. Indeed. Your Guardian network is impressive. You have prepared well. But you cannot stop entropy itself. We have grown stronger by consuming the civilizations of 16 other galaxies. Your preparations are insufficient. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in worried silence. Elder Dong-hyun spoke first. They are right. The defenses we built 50,000 years ago will not be enough. They have learned from every civilization they have consumed since then. Then we need something they have not seen before, said Jin'e. Scientist Yoon-jung looked up from her calculations. Supreme Admiral, I think I know what that might be. She activated a holographic display showing galactic civilization as it existed now. 50,000 years ago, humanity faced the Devourers alone. We were one species, no matter how advanced. But now, the display highlighted the dozens of member species, their different technologies, and their unique approaches to problem solving. Now, we have allies, Jin'e understood. Species that developed independently with technologies and strategies the Devourers have never encountered. Exactly. The Etherian energy manipulation, the Rigel Alliance's quantum mathematics, even the hegemony's aggressive battle tactics. Together, they represent approaches to warfare that no single galaxy has ever produced. Elder Dong-hyun nodded slowly. It could work, but only if they truly cooperate. No species fighting independently, no holding back their best technologies to gain advantage later. The question, said diplomat Seok-jin, is whether we can convince them to trust us completely. His answer came sooner than expected. The Devourers did not wait 72 hours. Supreme Admiral, called the sensor officer. Multiple contacts appearing at the galaxy's edge. They are moving much faster than predicted. The main display showed the horror approaching their galaxy. Massive structures that looked like living shadows, each one the size of a small moon. They moved through space without visible propulsion, and wherever they passed, stars flickered and died. How many? Asked Jin'e. Initial count shows over 1,000 major entities with support swarms numbering in the millions. Jin A opened communications to all human installations and allied fleets. This is Supreme Admiral Jin A. The enemy has arrived. All units implement Battle Plan Omega immediately. Across the galaxy, the Guardian network that had protected civilization for 50,000 years revealed its true purpose. Every hidden installation, every disguised weapon platform, every secret defense system activated simultaneously. The space between stars lit up with energy as humanity's ancient preparations came online. But even as the human defenses engaged the Devourers, Jin-A knew it would not be enough. "Get me the Galactic Council," she ordered. Veltar appeared on the communication screen, broadcasting from the council station that was now serving as Allied headquarters. "Supreme Admiral, our combined fleets are moving to support positions. Council Speaker, I need you to order all member species to share their most advanced technologies immediately. Not just military, everything. The Devourers adapt to whatever they face, so we need to hit them with approaches they cannot predict. Some species will refuse," Veltar warned. "Then they will die," Jin-A replied bluntly. "This is not a battle for territory or resources. This is a fight for the right to exist." The first engagement came at the galaxy's rim, where human Guardian stations met the Devourer advance force. The battle was unlike anything in recorded history. The Devourers attacked not just with weapons, but by unmaking the fundamental structure of space itself. Stars collapsed, planets simply ceased to exist, and entire solar systems were reduced to energy that the entities absorbed. But the human defenses had been designed by people who understood their enemy. Instead of trying to destroy the Devourers, the Guardian network worked to contain them, channeling their destructive force into carefully prepared zones where it could do minimal damage. "It is working," reported Fleet Admiral Nara from the front line. "We cannot stop them, but we are controlling their advance, buying time for the real strategy." The real strategy was scientist Unjung's masterpiece. While the Guardian network held the Devourers' attention, ships from every allied species were implementing a plan that no single civilization could have conceived. Etherian energy beings, phased partially out of normal space, carrying Rigel Alliance quantum bombs into positions where the Devourer's sensors could not detect them. Trade Federation merchant vessels, modified with human cloaking technology, delivered hegemony warriors directly into the heart of enemy formations. Even the smallest species contributed. The insectoid hive used their collective intelligence to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. "The Devourers are slowing," reported the sensor officer. "Their advance has stopped in 17 sectors." Elder Donghyun smiled for the first time in weeks. "They are confused. They have consumed thousands of civilizations, but never one that fought with so many different approaches simultaneously." The turning point came when Captain Daewon led a combined fleet deep into Devourer territory. Her ship, the Sejong the Great, carried a weapon that only a truly cooperative galactic civilization could have built. "Supreme Admiral," Daewon reported, "the Unity weapon is armed and ready." The Unity weapon was not a traditional destructive device. Instead, it projected the